السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طلبة وطالبات الثانوية العامة في سلسلة تسجيلات ثانوية سامعة The Prisoner of Zenda. إن شاء الله في التسجيلات دي هنتناقش مع بعض في القصة كأسئلة لكل تشابتر، وحاول إن شاء الله ننزلها لكم MP3 بحيث إن انتوا تقدروا تشغلوها بالفون وتسمعوا بالهاند فري، تقدروا تراجعوها ساعتها في أي وقت بشكل سهل وبأقل مجهود. ممكن تشغلوها في المواصلات، حتى ممكن تسمعها قبل ما تنام وأنت ماشي في الشارع، ممكن تشغلها وأنت بتغسل مواعين مثلا، اللي تشوفوه مناسب يعني. لأن أنا مخلص على فكرة وكنت جايب 98% وحاليا في هندسة، ورغم كده عارف كم المعاناة في القصة، بالذات لما هتاخدوا 8 chapters وتلاحظوا ان الامور بدأت تختلط عليكم وفي chapters بتقع منكم ومفيش وقت وبتجروا في باقي المواد. ان شاء الله لو سمعت الفصول دي بانتظام القصة هتفضل حاضرة في ذهنك، دي هتتحفر في دماغك، ومع التكرار زي ما بتحفظ اي حاجة بتسمعها كتير هتلاقيها سهلة في المراجعة لما تحب تراجعها ومش هتتزنق. زي ما هتلاحظ معظم صحابك في الاخر هيتزنقوا. مش عايز اطول عليكم، نخش في موضوعنا. ان شاء الله هنتكلم النهاردة في chapter 1. Chapter 1. Questions and Answers. Who is Rose Resemble? She is Ruddell Resemble's sister-in-law. Who is Ruddell Resemble? He is a wealthy English gentleman and the narrator of the story. What did Rose Resemble blame Ruddell for? She blamed him for being lazy and for not doing anything useful. Why doesn't Ruddell Resemble work? Because he has nearly enough money to do anything he wants to, and he enjoys an important position in society. He is a member of the Resemble family, and his family don't need to do things. Who is Robert Resemble? He is Ruddell Resemble's brother, and he is Lord Burleigh. Why was Rose Resemble annoyed when Ruddell said that his family didn't need to do things? Because her family were rich, but less important than the Resembles. Ruddell Resemble hadn't been lazy all his life. Explain. He had studied hard and learned a lot when he was at a German school and university. He spoke French, German, Italian, and Spanish. He was very good at using guns and swords and riding horses. How was Ruddell Resemble different from his brother? Ruddell had red hair, but Robert didn't. Robert realized his position in society had responsibilities, but Ruddell only saw opportunities in his position. What kind of work does Rose suggest Ruddell should do? She suggested that he should work for Sir Jacob Ruddell, who was going to be an ambassador in 6 months' time. Who was Sir Jacob Ruddell? He was to be an ambassador in 6 months. Rose Resemble was a very persuasive person. Explain. She had a way of asking people to do things which is impossible to refuse. She persuaded Ruddell to work for Sir Jacob Ruddell. Why did Ruddell Resemble agree to work for Sir Jacob Ruddell? Because he thought the job sounded quite interesting, and Rose persuaded him. Why has the Resemble family been interested in the Burke family? Because Countess Amelia Resemble married a member of the Ruddenian royal family, the Burkes. Who was Countess Amelia Resemble? She was a relative of the Resembles, who married into the Ruddenian royal family in 1733. Whose paintings did Lord Burleigh have on his walls? He had paintings of Countess Amelia Resemble and her descendants. What did many of Countess Amelia's descendants have in common? Many of them had the same red hair and straight noses as the Elfbergs. Why did Rodolph Resemble have the appearance of the Ruritanian royal family? Because he was a descendant of Countess Amelia, who married into the Ruritanian royal family. Who was Rodolph Elfberg? He was King Rodolph V of Ruritania. Where did Resemble decide to travel to? What did he tell his family about his plans? He decided to visit Ruritania. He told them that he was going walking in the Alps and that he was going to write a book about the social problems in the country. Why didn't Rodolph tell his family about his plans to travel to Ruritania? He didn't want them to stop him. Why did Rodolph tell his family he was going walking in the Alps? Because he never liked to tell them where he was going on his travels. What was Uncle William's advice for those passing through Paris? It was to spend a day in the city. Who did Rodolph Resemble call on in Paris? He called on two of his old friends, George Featherly, an English friend of Ruddell who worked in the English embassy in Paris, and Bertrand, an English journalist who worked in Paris. Who was Antoinette De Mauban? She was a French lady who was well known for her wealth and ambition. She was a beautiful, tall, and fashionably dressed lady of about 30. She loved Duke Michael. Why did Antoinette de Mauban go to Paris? Because she was a guest of the Duke of Strelitz. Who was Duke Michael Elfberg? He was Rodolph Elfberg's half-brother. Why didn't George Featherly think that the Duke of Strelitz wouldn't enjoy the coronation of his half-brother Rodolph? Because he thought that Duke Michael didn't like being only a duke, so he wished he were the king. Why didn't Rodolph Resemble tell George that he was going to Ruritania? If he had told him, he would have told Bertram, a journalist, and the news would have been in all the newspapers within days. Who did Rodolph see on the train to Dresden? He saw Antoinette de Mauban. Why did the guards at the Ruritanian border stare at Rodolph Resemble? Because he looked very much like Rodolph Elfberg, the king of Ruritania. What news did Rodolph read in the newspaper? He read that the king's coronation was to be in 2 days' time, and that all the hotels were full with people who wanted to see the king's coronation. What is the capital of Ruritania? Strelitz is the capital of Ruritania. Why couldn't Rodolph Resemble stay in the capital city, Strelitz? Or why did Rodolph decide to stop at Zenda? Because all the hotels were full with people who wanted to see the coronation. What do you know about Zenda? It's a small town 80 kilometers from the capital and about 10 kilometers from the border. It has a famous castle. What does the owner of the inn think of Duke Michael, the Duke of Strelitz? She loves him. She says he has always lived in Ruritania and he cares about the people, so people like him. She wishes The Duke was the king and not his brother. What does the owner of the inn think of the king? She thinks he is almost a stranger. He has been abroad for most of his life, and not many people even know how he looks like. Why was the king at the Duke's hunting lodge at Zenda? Because Duke Michael invited him to rest there until the day of the coronation. Why was Duke Michael at Streliso? He was there to make preparations for the coronation. Who has the right to become the King of Britannia, and why? Rudolf Elfberg has the right to become the King of Britannia, as he is the older son. Why did Resemble decide to walk through the forest the next day? He decided to do that so that he might see the king. Were the king and Duke Michael friends, and why? No, because both of them wanted the throne and the same wife, Olivia. Who is Johann Holf? He is a servant who works in the castle of Zenda. Why did Johann step back in surprise as soon as he saw Rudolf? Because Rudolf looked exactly like the king. Why did Johann invite Rudolf Resemble to stay at his sister's house? Because all the hotels were full in Streliso and Johann himself was unable to go. Describe the castle of Zenda. It was very old but well built. There was a moat all around it. Behind it was a large modern mansion. It could only be reached by a drawbridge between it and the mansion. It was well defended. Who did Resemble meet in the forest? Why were they surprised to see him? He met Colonel Sapt and Fritz von Tarlenheim, who worked for the king. They were surprised to see him because he looked like the king. Who is Colonel Sapt? What does he look like? He is an old soldier who works for the King of Britannia. He is short but looks very tough, with light blue eyes. He looks like a soldier. Who is Fritz von Tarlenheim? What does he look like? He is a gentleman who works for the King of Britannia. He is thin and of medium height. He looks like a gentleman. What happened when Rudolf and the king met for the first time, and why? Rudolf gave a loud cry, and the king stood back in amazement, looking at Rudolf because they looked alike. How were Rudolf Resemble and the King of Britannia alike? They looked so alike except perhaps for a centimeter or two difference in height. They didn't have identical personalities or skills.